This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description. Hello and welcome everyone to our 200th session of HalloCasa. My name is Michael and today I'm talking to Sam DeBord, CEO of the Real Estate Standards Organization, RESO, the nonprofit behind the industry's most widely adopted data standards, including the RESO Data Dictionary and Web API. Sam has held key leadership positions with the National Association of REALTORS, serving as President's Liaison for MLS and Data Management, and continues to shape the industry's future as a mentor for NA's REACH Accelerator, guiding PropTech startups across North America. Through his work at RESO, and as the author of Working with Real Estate Data, Sam is a driving force behind making real estate technology more open, interoperable, and globally connected. Sam, actually, I'm really happy to have you on the show, and it's nice that you have a round number with me on the podcast. It's the first time, that's why I got confused. The first time I have to say 200, which is actually quite cool. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're always like running behind agendas and you're having events on different continents all the time. You're managing a family. So thank you so much for your time today. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. And thanks for having me here, Michael. That's exciting. 200 episodes. Congratulations on that. That's great for you and for your audience. It's a rare person who extends past those first dozen or so episodes. So obviously you've got the drive to make this effective. So yeah, excited to be here. As you said, I'm with the Real Estate Standards Organization. We are what would be known as a data standards body, but we're essentially an organization that helps companies build technology systems that can talk to each other. So what most people would think of in similar concepts are Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. You use these every day, you don't think about them, but those are standards. They're open standards that are built by organizations of competitors. All the technology companies in the world come together and say, we need our modem, our router, our car, our computer, our laptop, our phone to all be able to talk to each other. And what's that language going to look like so these systems can talk to each other and then we can compete? So Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, what we do at RESO is create those technology languages to make sure data can get from a real estate agent to an MLS system, if that's what exists in your country, to a website, a property portal, an agent's app, and to any consumer-facing reports, no matter what the language is, no matter if there's legal differences, if there are local differences. So we have hundreds of organizations who are members of RESO, from technology companies to national trade organizations, multiple listing services, brokerages, and government agencies from different countries who are all interested in having quality information, quality data to serve whoever their customers are.
So in a nutshell, you get the data from different sources, you create your magic, and more people can read them and in real time, correct? That's like when application programming interface is like, because it's an API. So it's not like you have to always send like XML. Like I think like we still have in many countries like XML feeds as a standard, but give us like maybe then an overview regarding like how that works technologically.
Yes, so we provide a handful of different standards, but the two that people would know the best are the data dictionary, which is the names and the formats of data. So in English, if you were to say, we want to show a list price on a property, you wouldn't call that listing price or sale price or ask price. We would normalize that so that everyone says list price in each of their data sets. Very straightforward things, but it should be a number. It shouldn't be a negative. It shouldn't have letters in it. That's the basis of a data dictionary. And we have thousands and thousands of fields and lookups that you would see in a property search that you're used to seeing or a property report. And then, as you said, the other side of that is the API. How do we move that data between systems? How do we allow any data consumer to ask or request data from another company? And how should that data producer that has the data respond and give that information back? And if everybody who reads the specification or the rules for the API understands that I can ask for the data 40 different ways, and everyone who has the data says, if I get one of these 40 different requests, this is how I should respond, we get this really great flow of data. We get this efficiency where everybody's not building new tech on the fly for every single integration. They understand, hey, if we just use the RESO way of doing this, we know what the names of the fields are going to be. We know what the format of that data is going to look like. And we know exactly what the question is to ask of the data provider. And they know how to respond, and we'll get the data set in the shape that we want. At a certain level, it's very basic, like Wi-Fi. We just expect it to work. We expect to get in a car or on a plane and have our devices connect. But you have to have all those competitors come together and set those technical rules for the standard first. And then the sort of growing effect, it's this rising tide that floats all boats. Everybody can build better technology. There's more competition. There's more new competitors coming into this space with new products. And that's the healthiest market environment, is when lots of smart new companies can come in and bring more competition and more products for us to choose from.
What's your coverage? Because you just mentioned it, like it's basically a network effect. Like the more people use it, the better it is. If no one uses the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth protocol, basically no one benefits from it. So what's right now the coverage?
So in the US, we have very broad coverage. The idea of RESO was created about 20 years ago, but we became an independent standards body about 12 years ago because the US has 500 MLSs, which most countries don't have this issue. But each of them built their own technology, had their own field names. And so if you were a real estate broker, an agent, or just a consumer who wanted to see something on a website, as we described earlier, if it said list price on one and ask price on one and asking price on another one, these data sets didn't integrate. Today, we've certified about 93% of the MLSs in the US. So they're all using RESO standards. We're working with Canadian MLSs who have a very similar structure to the US. And we have members now in about 30 plus countries who are also adopting this. And this is what a standards body is designed for, that Bluetooth wouldn't just be in the US, that we wouldn't travel to Warsaw and have a different version of Bluetooth there, or Brazil and have a different version of Wi-Fi. So it is really spreading quickly, which is why we're working more with international partners and member organizations to make sure that the underlying data set can flow between systems. And then we can all do what we need to on top of that for the language and local differences.
I mean, I can speak from my direct experience. Me building HalloCasa, we have our own XML protocol documentation. If you want to upload it, you can use it. We have Kiro XML, so that's like Latin America and Spain. We have WASI, which is mainly Latin America. And we are right now working on the German one, and they also do it not only like by an XML, but it's like by an integration. So the push request goes from Germany. We do have this problem, and I also need to tell you, like when starting HalloCasa, there were like people saying, don't go into this XML nightmare, because our PropTech, I'm the CTO of a PropTech, and we have 200 employees just making sure that data flows properly. That was like, I think like a player in Latin America. So your value proposition is so strong, in my opinion, that basically you are materializing or taking advantage of a huge chunk of GDP, because you say, listen, just use our protocol, use our standard, and everything should be flowing correctly. Now, coming to the international expansion from your side, and I'm following you on LinkedIn, and I see a lot of initiatives from RESO and also from the US and North America in general to say, like, listen, we know it is very important to go global, because then we have the largest network effects and also the largest impact. What for initiatives do you run, and how do you also get this coverage and the awareness on local boards, maybe local associations, local tech companies? What's your approach there, if I may ask you?
So I think what you've described is a situation we've still had in the US as well. This XML situation, we all started with just picking up dumps of data using FTP. then the biggest player in a marketplace would say, here's our XML format. Zillow is the biggest property portal in the US on the consumer side. And there was a format they used that lots of companies used because that's the default go-to. But Zillow is a member of RESO as well, and they've been hugely supportive with our other technology portals and companies in terms of building out a model that's just simpler for everyone to have not only the format, but the API as well. So we've actually had mostly inbound traffic. Once we started working with the Canadian Real Estate Association, and we saw that the problems we were solving in the US market were similar to the problems they were working on in their marketplace, we started getting traffic inbound, folks from Europe in particular, when we worked with SEPI, the European Association of Real Estate Professions. I think they represent about 30 countries, and they're working on the same things. And although the MLS marketplace is different, and the licensing and the agency and whether they have exclusive listings, these are all different, and they make for idiosyncrasies in each market. No matter what that environment looks like, they still want to have the simplicity, the efficiency of technology standards to move data back and forth with whatever structures they have. We worked early on with PAC, which is the government assessment organization in Ontario in Canada. You wouldn't expect us to be working with government organizations because we were started with brokers and associations and MLSs, but they have the same needs for high quality information and to move that around. As we've worked more with Europe and now coming into bigger international MLS forums every year, we're going to have about 50 countries represented at our forum in Toronto this year. We are working with the government in Abu Dhabi to put on the event in 2026, and some really interesting initiatives in the Middle East where government and business and real estate industries are working together to build based on local needs, different models based on that local area, but all with the same goal of having the best information possible to make governments, communities, planning, development, and business all have accurate, trusted information. So that's really the biggest selling point, is to have a trusted information source, to be able to have people see a marketplace, understand it's based on rules, and then be able to trust that information to transact in, to report on, to use for planning, and do data-driven decision-making in organizations. And that's a universal set of values that's very attractive, really, in any marketplace that we work in.
Does it help you or does it hold you back to be a non-profit organization?
That's a good question. A lot of times, requiring competitors to come together in a space like this is advanced by saying the entity itself is not looking to profit off of your work, it's looking to build you a better foundation. And so that's the founders of this organization, of RESO, said, let's take that concern off the table, that maybe the drive is for the RESO organization itself to make a lot of money. The way that the tax structures are formed in the US is that you can be a nonprofit, not a charity. It's not a charity organization, but it's built for a purpose that benefits the community, the government, the people, the businesses. So we exist for a purpose. We don't actually have owners because we're not a private company. We're an organization that exists as a nonprofit because we serve a purpose that improves the marketplace. And everybody benefits from that. At least in the initial creation of organizations like this, a lot of times that's one of the things that really gets folks on board to come into the same room with their competitors and contribute to the same efforts.
Yes, and if I may add, I think it's exactly you are canceling the doubt in the other person's head or brain you are talking to and say, yeah, listen, like there's a conflict of interest. And I say that because I used to work in healthcare, SaaS, software sales, and there's always like those HI, like healthcare information systems. And obviously they're not non-profit. So they try to be as close as possible because then they can upsell and they are reporting to their shareholders. You don't have that. You say, listen, we are open source, we are happy. And there again, the good comparison to Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, they're basically also like a non-profit organization, if you want to define it like that. Where do you think the market is going regarding, and I don't know if you have touched upon this topic internally and you just discussed it, but the topic of MCPs and agents. So saying, nice API, that sounds like 1990s. We are on the next level. We are talking right now like agentic AI or any other way. We don't need it. We leapfrog you and we just do it conversational. We don't need an API, which obviously like doesn't really make sense, but I'm just still asking your opinion there.
It's a really exciting area. It's an exciting area of tech, the kinds of capabilities that we'd have. The leapfrogging comment is, can we be more efficient much more quickly and take steps out of the process? So I think that's all very positive. Our space in particular in real estate, there are usually a set of licenses around any of the data that someone would be moving across this kind of API, who would be using a RESO certified data set. So whether it's the brokerage, whether it's the multiple listing service, whether it's a property portal, there are going to be licenses that describe the ways that can be displayed, can be reused, can be created in derivative works. So while there are capabilities for agentic AI to come in and do lots of things without a whole lot of outside influence with this data, the rules and the licenses are still going to govern what those uses are. We definitely have people in our work groups. We didn't describe this before, but we have a large number of work groups at RESO that are filled with subject matter experts. So they're software engineers and developers, they're business people. They come together in work groups and build out specifications. Some of them are very exploratory, like a research and development group that might be looking into things like MCP, different ways of thinking about what AI is going to need in terms of capabilities, but also regulation, and being able to deliver those kinds of instructions on how to use this if it's an agent that's interacting with that data, but also very practical groups that are just constantly expanding what we have in, say, the data dictionary. When we go to a new country and they say, we'd like to use the data dictionary, but we've got a concept that's called a chain house in our country. You don't have a chain house in the data dictionary because it's very North American. A lot of these work groups are looking at the very practical now things, and then the kinds of concepts we need to look toward in the future to support things. In general, as a standards body, we need to be solving existing problems and thinking about future problems, but we can't move as fast as a private technology company because we exist to bring that mutual work together once everybody's agreed upon a concept, not to get out in front of the technology companies that are doing new, exciting things that are pushing the limits. So we're certainly aware and having those conversations, but also looking to our member organizations to say, you're the ones building these tools. Talk to us about how we should come together on common rules around what's coming next.
You have held holding a lot of positions, president, director, you're a mentor in different organizations. You really have been achieving a lot of positions, elements during your entire career. That's actually very impressive, I must say. Now, with all your experience and also your network and your very strong technological approach and glasses, aspiring entrepreneurs, maybe also in the PropTech sector, what is something you would advise them if they started off or they're one of your events, program events, and they pitch you and stuff? What is basically maybe also a common, let's say, weakness or misleading belief where you always have to remind them and say, listen, this is what I've seen, take my advice, and I think you're going to be more successful.
And working with new technology companies is one of my favorite things, one of the best things that we do at RESO. We obviously have a lot of companies that have been around a long time who are huge supporters and have done a lot of the legwork to get where we are. But we're built to allow these new companies and these new products, the kinds of things you do, to scale faster, to not just find one customer where you do proprietary work and have that be acceptable in one marketplace, but to help companies like yours scale across marketplaces and build something that the next customer can say, this is plug and play. I know how to work with the connections between these two things. And then these new tools will allow me to do something new with that product. So I think a big thing, and I think most entrepreneurs would know this, but is remembering to always think about what you don't know, to be constantly accepting of the fact that there's a lot that you don't know yet. The number of new tech companies that we've advised, in particular, we worked with the National Association of REALTORS Reach group, which is the Reach Accelerator, and helping them understand these roadblocks between scaling from 1 to 2, 1 to 30, 1 to 500 are incredibly large in a lot of cases. And understanding that you can actually figure out where all these roadblocks are beforehand, before you start building, before you get to the finished product. A lot of people will talk about how early do you put an MVP out in the space. You should do that early, but you should also be out there finding out quickly what's happening in Miami versus what's happening in Warsaw are very different things depending on whether those are your two markets that you're going toward. So we'll have companies who will come in with beautiful products, but they die 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months down the road because they built it custom for a custom market without understanding, particularly in the US, scaling across MLSs can be very different. We actually provide a course at RESO called Working with Real Estate Data. That is, it explains just the structure of the industry so that you can understand better what a local, state, and national association do, how their policies and rules affect an MLS marketplace, how those affect the licenses that you can use, whether you're a pure vendor, whether you're working with a broker, and how these things interact even with license law a little bit and then standards. But it's important to get that education early because the real estate industry, even in the US, which we call organized real estate, is a very disjointed industry. Most of the world is very disjointed. It's lots of one-off work for different tools and different marketplaces and different roles. And so keeping that you don't know what you don't know mindset and seeking out people who've been through those processes allow us what we want to happen. We want these bright, young, new minds with new technology capabilities to come in and succeed in the industry. We want that innovation to push the companies we already have in the industry to build better. And we need those new companies to have the visibility to understand what's coming so that they can have that runway, so they can extend that product and get it viable in multiple markets and bring us those opportunities.
Sam, I know your time is very limited. Thank you so much for the conversation. I learned a lot. You gave us a very nice overview of RESO, the importance of APIs, the interoperability, not only at a national level, but also obviously the beauty about network effects. So the more, the merrier. You gave us a very nice overview of where you came from and where you're also expanding right now internationally. In my opinion, strong advantage of being an organization, non-profit organization, in order to reduce the conflict of interest. And you also gave us a very nice overview of where the market is heading regarding MCPs and Agentic AI. Very interesting there. Thank you so much. And lastly, basically the tips for entrepreneurs who want to make it work, who want to succeed, and also how RESO can help. Is there anything else you would like to mention to the audience which we haven't touched upon?
You can find more information about us at reso.org. And I would like to say you're a fantastic interviewer, and that's why these are such easy conversations and why you're on to interview 200. So we appreciate the work you're doing, particularly with allowing this knowledge to make it across borders, across cultures, across different marketplaces. We need more of that visibility in terms of communications and products. So it's exciting to see the work you're doing as well.
Thank you so much, Sam. It touches me. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm gonna send the show. I'm gonna put the information to the show notes, and I wish you a beautiful day and the best regards to Bellevue in Washington.
You as well. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye. This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description.